I'd like to thank the members of the Academy for honoring my fellow nominees and myself. This means a lot to me since...
At 73 years old, Anjelica Huston has dropped a bombshell that Hollywood has been whispering about for nearly 4 decades. Oprah Winfrey has been holding a grudge against her since 1986, and the pettiness is more shocking than anyone imagined. It's a feud that started at the Oscars and has lasted longer than most Hollywood marriages. When Anjelica finally broke her silence in a no-holds-barred interview, she revealed details so specific and personal that they've reignited one of Hollywood's coldest conflicts. What really happened between these women, and why did the feud last for that long? Join us as we unveil the real story behind Anjelica Huston and Oprah Winfrey's decades-long standoff. The night that started a 38-year feud. On March 24, 1986, at the 58th Academy Awards, 5 actresses were nominated for Best Supporting Actress. Margaret Avery for The Color Purple, Anjelica Huston for Prizzi's Honor, Amy Madigan for Twice in a Lifetime, Meg Tilly for Agnes of God, and Oprah Winfrey for The Color Purple. All 5 were first-time nominees, each at a pivotal moment in their careers. But this wasn't just any Oscar race. Oprah Winfrey was the sentimental favorite, the underdog everyone was rooting for. She'd made her film debut in Steven Spielberg's The Color Purple, playing Sophia Johns with such power and authenticity that Hollywood could not ignore her. People kept approaching Oprah's best friend, Gayle King, telling her they had voted for Oprah. The buzz suggested Winfrey was going to win. It wasn't up for debate. There was just one problem. Oprah didn't want to win. Not that night, because she was sitting in the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion wearing a dress that didn't fit. And it's not a conversation about being slightly uncomfortable. It's about a wardrobe disaster of epic proportions that would haunt her for decades. Oprah had used Dolly Parton's dressmaker. He'd come over for fittings earlier in the day, then said he needed to take the dress back for adjustments. When he returned it, Oprah didn't try it on again until she had to put it on to leave for the ceremony, just an hour before she needed to be on the red carpet. It didn't fit. She couldn't get it up over her hips. Her hairdresser had to lay Oprah on the floor and push her lower body down to zip the dress. She rode to the Oscars planked in the back of a limousine, unable to sit properly. Once at the ceremony, she couldn't sit in the chair normally and sat rigidly upright the entire night. The dress had a really heavy beaded collar, and when she sat back, the collar choked her, so she spent the whole night holding on to the collar. Wearing that dress was so physically painful that Oprah later admitted she was praying for someone else to win because she knew she couldn't get out of the chair. When the envelope was opened, it was Anjelica Huston's name that was called. Anjelica won for her role as Melrose Prizzi in her late father John Huston's film Prizzi's Honor, which also starred her then-boyfriend Jack Nicholson. She became the 3rd generation of her family to receive an Oscar, joining her father and grandfather Walter Huston in Academy Award history. On the surface, this looked like a standard Oscar race in which one actress won, and the others went home disappointed. Hollywood is built on these moments. If one loses, they are expected to smile graciously and move on. Except Oprah apparently didn't move on. According to Anjelica Huston, Oprah never forgave her for winning that night, and the proof would come in the cold shoulder treatment that lasted for decades. Gayle King later wrote about that night for The Hollywood Reporter, revealing details that support Oprah's version of the wardrobe catastrophe. Gayle admitted she thought Oprah would win the Oscar because people kept coming up to her to say they had voted for Oprah. But Oprah was sitting there thinking, "Please don't call my name," because of her dress. When Anjelica Huston's name was called, Gayle noted it was also a very good performance and deserved the win. But here's what makes this situation so fascinating. Oprah and Anjelica remember that night very differently. For Oprah, it was one of the most horrible nights of her life, dominated entirely by the physical torture of wearing that dress. For Anjelica, it was a triumphant moment, winning an Oscar for a film directed by her father. And somewhere in the space between those two very different experiences, a grudge was born that would last nearly 4 decades. The Color Purple had been nominated for 11 Academy Awards that year, including Best Picture, but didn't win a single one. The film that meant so much to Oprah and launched her film career went home empty-handed. And the woman who beat her for Best Supporting Actress? She'd remember Anjelica Huston's name. But the Oscar loss was just the beginning. What happened when these two women finally came face to face, years later, would prove the grudge was very real. The brutal snub. Fast forward to sometime after 1986. Anjelica Huston was at a private residence for an Academy Awards party, mingling with Hollywood royalty. She found herself in conversation with Clint Eastwood, one of cinema's biggest legends. And then, something happened that Anjelica would never forget. Oprah Winfrey approached them, and instead of acknowledging Anjelica or politely joining the conversation, she literally came between Anjelica and Clint, with her back to Anjelica. Not beside them or facing them both, but between them, with her back turned to Huston. Suddenly, Anjelica was confronted with the back of Oprah's head. In a candid 2019 interview with Vulture, Anjelica recounted the incident with barely concealed shock. The interviewer, Andrew Goldman, asked if there had been any repercussions for beating Oprah at the Oscars. Huston's response was immediate and specific. Anjelica revealed that Oprah never had her on her show, ever, and won't talk to her. The Oprah Winfrey Show ran for 25 years, from September 8, 1986, just months after that Oscar ceremony, until May 25, 2011. Over those 25 years, Oprah interviewed thousands of guests.
So I'm going to go through this list. This is not a contest, Brad.
Okay.
Favorite age or time in your life?
Right now, 34.
Movie stars, musicians, politicians, authors, and everyday people with extraordinary stories. But never Anjelica Huston, an Oscar-winning actress with a legendary Hollywood pedigree and dozens of acclaimed films to promote. But here's what makes Anjelica's revelation even more striking. She followed it up with admiration, acknowledging Oprah's talent and charm. Even while stating that Oprah has apparently held a decades-long grudge against her, Anjelica recognized the scope of Winfrey's impact and success. That simple compliment changed the feud's dynamics. But this wasn't the only feud supposedly stemming from the Color Purple's Oscar losses. Another co-star faced similar treatment from Oprah for decades, the Whoopi Goldberg connection. Anjelica Huston's revelation about Oprah's alleged grudge wasn't happening in isolation. There was a disturbing pattern emerging around the Color Purple, and it involved another actress who should have been Oprah's closest ally, Whoopi Goldberg. Whoopi starred in The Color Purple as Celie, the lead role that earned her an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress. She and Oprah should have been bonded by that experience, by being part of a film that broke barriers and told a powerful story. Instead, there were rumors of a feud between Winfrey and Goldberg that lasted for years. The assumed falling out between Oprah and Whoopi became such an accepted part of Hollywood lore that people stopped questioning whether it was true. They just assumed these two powerful black women who had starred together in a groundbreaking film somehow could not get along. It took decades before Whoopi appeared on The Oprah Winfrey Show to clear the air about their misunderstanding that was perceived as a falling out. The Color Purple was released in 1985. Whoopi didn't appear on Oprah's show to address the feud rumors until one of the final seasons, which means they went decades with this cloud hanging over their relationship. Why so long? What kept them from simply having a conversation and clearing things up? The parallel to Anjelica's situation is striking. Both women were associated with the Color Purple's Oscar campaign. Both allegedly ended up on Oprah's bad side. Both went years without resolving whatever tension existed. The common thread? The 1986 Academy Awards, where The Color Purple was nominated for 11 Oscars and won exactly 0.
I consider this woman the greatest actress in the English language. The winner is Geraldine Page in Eclipse of Valor.
That shutout was devastating for everyone involved with the film. Spielberg didn't win for Best Director. The film didn't win Best Picture. Whoopi didn't win Best Actress. Oprah didn't win Best Supporting Actress. Margaret Avery, also nominated for Best Supporting Actress for The Color Purple, didn't win. It was a complete sweep of losses, and apparently someone needed to be blamed. Anjelica Huston became the face of that blame, fairly or not. She was the woman who won the category Oprah was nominated in. She was the one who beat the sentimental favorite. But here's the thing, Anjelica didn't campaign against The Color Purple. She didn't lobby Academy voters to reject Oprah. She simply delivered a performance in her father's film that the Academy preferred. That's how awards work. Someone wins, someone else doesn't. But in this case, the loss apparently became personal in a way that transcended normal Hollywood disappointment. The fact that it took decades for Whoopi and Oprah to publicly reconcile suggests that whatever was happening behind the scenes around The Color Purple went deeper than just Oscar disappointment. There were hurt feelings, perceived slights, and misunderstandings that festered for years. And if that's what happened between two co-stars from the same film, imagine how much easier it would be for Oprah to simply cut out someone like Anjelica entirely. Interestingly, Oprah's side of the story paints a very different picture of that Oscar night, one where Anjelica Huston barely registered as a concern. The wardrobe malfunction explanation.
What happened was I had this special dress made for the Oscars because the Oscars is the biggest prom night of your life. Yes, 5 minutes to 4. You're supposed to be in your seat at 5 o'clock.
In February 2012, Oprah Winfrey appeared on Jimmy Kimmel Live and finally addressed that infamous Oscar night. But Oprah's version of events focused entirely on one thing, that dress. She revealed that when she went to the Oscars, it was one of the most horrible nights of her life. And not because she lost to Anjelica Huston, but simply because of the dress. This narrative positions Oprah as someone who was so consumed by physical discomfort that she couldn't have possibly been focused on who won or lost. The dress dominated her entire experience of that night. Anjelica Huston winning barely registered because Oprah was in survival mode, just trying to make it through the ceremony without a wardrobe disaster becoming even more public. But here's the problem with that defense. It doesn't explain the party incident. It doesn't explain never having Anjelica on the show for 25 years. It doesn't explain physically inserting herself between Anjelica and Clint Eastwood with her back turned. Those things happened years after the Oscars, long after any dress-related trauma should have faded. Gayle King's account supports Oprah's version of that specific night, but didn't account for the years that followed. It doesn't explain the alleged refusal to have Anjelica on the Oprah Winfrey Show. It doesn't address the party incident that Anjelica described in such specific detail. Oprah's defense covers one night. Anjelica's accusations cover decades. And here's what's particularly interesting. Oprah has never directly responded to Anjelica's claims. When Huston's Vulture interview went viral in 2019, Oprah remained silent. That silence is telling. If someone publicly claimed you'd been holding a grudge against them for 30-plus years, wouldn't you deny it if it weren't true? Wouldn't you clarify the misunderstanding? Unless, of course, there's some truth to it, and addressing it would only make things worse. But while Oprah stayed silent about the feud, Anjelica was just getting started with her Hollywood truth bombs. Burning bridges at 73. Anjelica Huston sat down for an interview with Vulture in May 2019, and that interview would become one of the most talked about celebrity profiles of the year. At 67 years old, promoting John Wick. Chapter 3, Parabellum, she decided she had nothing left to lose. And what followed was a masterclass in Hollywood, truth-telling that burned bridges from Malibu to Manhattan. The Oprah revelation was just the beginning. Anjelica went after Bill Murray, claiming he was a shit to her on Wes Anderson's The Life Aquatic. The first week she was there, they were all in this little hotel, and he invited the entire cast to go and have dinner, except her. Everyone came down for dinner, a little dog-faced about her not being invited. That was worse than anything. She defended Woody Allen, saying she'd work with him again in a second, despite the allegations against him. She took shots at Eddie Murphy, confirming industry rumors that he demands everyone be on set before he arrives, forcing cast and crew to wait in California's summer heat for over 15 minutes. His reply when she requested at least knowing when he was traveling to the set. Ladies first, delivered through the grapevine like the passive-aggressive Hollywood power play it was. She criticized recent work by Robert De Niro and Al Pacino, saying she didn't want to see Jack Nicholson in Meet the Fockers and got depressed seeing him in Nancy Meyers' movies. She called an old lady cheerleader movie what would become Diane Keaton's film Palms, prompting actress Jackie Weaver to tell Huston she could go fuck herself for being mean and petty. This wasn't an actress carefully managing her public image. This was someone who'd spent 50-plus years in Hollywood and decided to say exactly what she thought about everyone and everything. And the Oprah revelation fit perfectly into that pattern. Anjelica was done with polite silence. When Andy Cohen asked her about the controversial interview on his radio show days later, Anjelica expressed surprise at the attention. "Oh my God, I had no idea. It must be a very slow news week, is all I have to say." She hoped she hadn't hurt anyone's feelings, but stood by every word she said. Most of the topics were already addressed in her books anyway, she pointed out. Anjelica had written 2 memoirs, A Story Lately Told, Coming of Age in Ireland, London, and New York in 2013, and Watch Me, a memoir, in 2014. In those books, she'd already discussed her tumultuous relationship with Jack Nicholson, her father's demanding nature, and her struggles in Hollywood.
I'm gonna think about your well-being.
Thank you, Grandfather.
The Vulture interview just brought those stories to a wider audience with updated commentary. What the backlash revealed was how unusual Anjelica's honesty actually was. Hollywood runs on carefully managed narratives, publicist-approved statements, and strategic image control. Celebrities don't publicly call each other out. They don't admit to feuds or name names when discussing bad behavior. Anjelica violated all those unwritten rules in one interview, and the Oprah revelation hit differently than the others. Bill Murray wasn't responding. Eddie Murphy's camp stayed quiet. But Oprah Winfrey is one of the most powerful media figures in the world. Picking a fight with her, or rather, publicly acknowledging a fight she'd allegedly been having with you for decades, was a bold move. Some saw Anjelica's interview as brave truth-telling. Others saw it as a bitter has-been trying to stay relevant by dragging successful people down. One commenter wrote, "She is the kind of woman women should aspire to be. Strong and independent, but doesn't hate men." Another responded, "Another has-been who needs a few more minutes in the limelight. But here's what's undeniable. Anjelica Huston's career speaks for itself. Academy Award winner, BAFTA nominee, Golden Globe winner, star of The Addams Family, The Grifters, The Royal Tenenbaums, and Precy's Honor. The third generation of her family to win an Oscar. She wasn't some struggling actress desperate for attention. She was a Hollywood legend who decided to stop pretending everything was fine. And in doing so, she exposed an uncomfortable aspect of Hollywood's power dynamics. when someone as successful and respected as Oprah Winfrey allegedly holds a grudge for decades. It's not just petty. It's a demonstration of power. The ability to exclude someone from your platform, to refuse to speak to them at parties, to make them persona non grata in certain circles, that's what real Hollywood power looks like. At 73, Anjelica Huston has told her truth about Oprah Winfrey. Whether it is the truth or just her truth is something we may never know. But one thing's certain, she's done staying silent. And in an industry built on carefully managed images and strategic silences, that honesty is revolutionary. The ball is in Oprah's court now. She can continue the silence that's lasted 38 years. Or she can finally address what Anjelica claims happened. Either way, Anjelica has already won. She survived Jack Nicholson's infidelity, her father's demanding nature, Bill Murray's rudeness, and yes, even Oprah Winfrey's alleged cold shoulder. And she did it all while maintaining her dignity, her talent, and her legendary status in Hollywood. Would Oprah ever publicly address the feud rumors? And what explanation could account for the reported incident between the two women? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.